Anytime, Madam Chair.
Okay. Good morning. The hearing board of the South Coast Air Quality Management District is in session. Today is Thursday, December 10th, 2020. Time is 9:05 a.m. and we are meeting via Zoom remotely because of the current pandemic and the stay-at-home orders in place in the state of California. We have two matters on the calendar today. One on our consent calendar. That matter is City of San Bernardino Municipal Water Department, case number 6124-1 for a modification and extension. We also have one scheduled hearing on our regular calendar, and that is South Coast AQMD versus D&D Disposal, Inc., doing business as West Coast Rendering Company, case number 3462-4 for a status report and also for a modification of the existing order for abatement. As is our usual practice, we will only take the consent matter first if there are any members of the public who are present and wish to be heard on that consent matter. So if there is anyone present who wishes to be heard on the matter of City of San Bernardino Municipal Water Department, please raise your hand or otherwise let the chair know that you wish to be heard today. Okay, I do not see any member of the public. So we will take the consent matter, the consent calendar after our regular calendar. And that means I'm going to call our regularly scheduled hearing. Excuse me while I get paper, which I didn't realize I didn't have. There we go. Which is South Coast AQMD versus D&D Disposal, Inc., doing business as West Coast Rendering Company, not for much longer, 3462-4 for a status report and modification of the existing order for abatement. And who is representing the executive officer today?
Daphne Sue.
Thank you. And who is representing the respondent? Because I'm not going to call you as who you are not, but who is representing the respondent today?
I suppose that would be me.
Okay, and can you please?
And me also, Armando Martin.
Okay, and who is going to do most of the speaking today, so that we can pick one gentleman?
I'm a little better at talking, but Armando might know a little bit more information. So
we're going to hear from both of you.
Yeah, we're gonna.
Okay. Can you? We only have you as Stephen. Can you please state and spell your full name for the record, please?
Yes, Stephen Stiles. That's Stephen. Stiles is Stiles.
Okay, and can you state what your, I know you said it before, but on the record, can you tell us what is your title?
Yeah, I guess it would just be manager, yeah.
Okay, and manager of, can you be clear for the record, because I know we have a motion to change the respondent, so can you tell us the full title of, or the full name of the organization or company that you are manager of?
Yeah, it's Legacy Byproducts LLC.
Thank you very much. Okay, we have several additional documents that have been filed and also that have been sent to board members and submitted. We have a stipulated motion to further modify the order for abatement that was filed. And that motion requests two things. Number one, to substitute Legacy Byproducts as the respondent in this matter, and also to enter the stipulated modification to the findings and decisions. I'm going to mark not that motion, but I'm going to mark the proposed findings and decision, which is attached to it, as exhibit number 8. Is that correct, Madam Clerk? We are now up to exhibit 8. Okay, I saw her say yes. Also, we received two photographs. Oops, I got rid of you all. Okay, there you are. We received two photographs. We received a photograph that is entitled Photo of Ground, dated December 2nd, 2020. That photograph will be exhibit number 9. And we received photograph of roof, which is also dated December 2nd, 2020. And that will be marked as exhibit number 10. And I believe that takes care of all the additional exhibits that we have to mark. Okay, I'm going to start before I get opening statements. I'm going to ask everyone who wishes to be heard in this matter, and that would include both people who are representing the respondent and anyone else who potentially might testify today, to please raise your right hand to be sworn in at this time. Do you promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Okay, I'm going to begin with an opening by Ms. Sue. Where? There you go.
We had petitioned a hearing board because D&D, a rendering facility, had ongoing Rule 415 violations, including having large amounts of raw materials left uncovered and unprocessed, and for failure to submit permit applications for permanent total enclosures and associated control equipment. The order for abatement and its amendments required D&D to decline poultry materials so that they could focus on processing the existing materials and set construction milestones. In June 2020, Legacy Byproducts purchased D&D. Since the existing permits to construct were not transferable to the new owner, Legacy Byproducts submitted permit applications for enclosures and associated controls. On November 6, 2020, South Coast AQMD issued the permits to construct as part of the facility's reclaim permit. Legacy Byproducts agreed to be substituted as the respondent and agreed to certain milestones. The facility stipulated to the motion and proposed order. We have Mr. Dylan Harris here, an inspector from South Coast AQMD, and he will testify regarding his recent inspection at Legacy Byproducts and to the stipulated proposed order. Thank you very much.
So the original order was a contested order, and the request not only is to substitute the respondents, but also, and for the modified order, but also to make it a stipulated order.
I believe the original order was a stipulated order, but the first hearing, the facility was not present, but they had signed a stipulation.
Is that correct? Am I remembering this incorrectly?
Yeah, that was the case. They did not appear at the first hearing.
I know that, and that's why I thought, given that they did not appear, we did not make it a stipulated order. Okay, well, now I'm looking at the old one. Perhaps it did become a stipulated order over time. Okay. All right, so I stand corrected. It already is a stipulated order, and it's just exchanging respondents and modification. With that, I'm going to ask, the way that this hearing is going to work, Mr. Stiles, and also Mr. Martin, is that I'm going to go to you if you wish to give it a succinct statement, just generally for an opening statement. And then since you're going to be also testifying, we'll take that since you took the oath as the beginning of your testimony. And then I'm going to go back to Ms. Sue, who's going to present any witnesses she wishes to present and present her case. And then we'll question those witnesses. You'll have an opportunity to as well if you have any questions. And then we'll come back to you, and each of you can in turn present additional testimony, anything else you wish to present to the board today. And then we'll ask questions if we need to. Ms. Sue will ask questions if she needs to, and we'll deliberate and make a decision today. So at this time, if you wish to, give an opening statement, just give us some background perhaps as to your purchase and up to today would be helpful.
Okay, yeah. Armando Jr. and I, being involved in the dead animal business previously to this encounter, we were fairly aware of D&D West Coast and their operations, and we understood the Rule 415 was putting extreme hardship on them and that they weren't ever going to comply with that rule and eventually go under. So Junior and I came up to Bill and Vincent and proposed to purchase them, and we agreed upon a price, and in doing so, Bill left immediately and Vincent stuck around for a little bit to help train us in the processes that we weren't familiar with. So in doing so, since then, we've been trying to come into compliance as quick as we possibly can with the limited funds that we have anymore.
Thank you.
Of course.
Ms. Sue,
Yes.
how would you like to proceed? Would you like to present witnesses?
Yes, I would like to call on Mr. Harris. Good morning, Mr. Harris. Can you please state and spell your name for the record?
Dylan Harris, Dillon Harris.
And did you take the oath today to tell the truth?
I did.
And please remind the board of your title and your main responsibilities.
I'm a air quality inspector too at the South Coast AQMD, and my job is to do reclaim facility audits.
Okay. And have you inspected the facility legacy byproducts, formerly known as D&D, before?
Yes.
So are you aware that legacy byproducts was purchased by D&D? Sorry, legacy byproducts purchased D&D.
Yes.
And is the facility providing logs indicating when they receive materials and when they cook materials?
Yes, they are.
And last week, approximately how many pounds of materials did they receive?
Last week, about 30,000.
Okay. And what day of the week do they generally receive the most materials?
Tuesday night, Wednesday morning is usually their biggest material day.
And approximately how much materials do they receive Tuesday and Wednesday?
Anywhere from 25 to 35,000.
Okay. And what is their cook capacity at the facility currently?
Well, the facility has 4 cookers, one of which is unoperational. Another one is semi-operational. So the facility is using 2 cookers. Each cooker can cook about 10,000 pounds. And you can get about 3 cooks per day out of each cooker. So about 60,000 pounds.
Okay. And when did you last inspect legacy byproducts?
On December 2nd of 2020. So last week.
And what day of the week was that?
A Wednesday.
And why did you choose that day to perform the inspection?
I chose a Wednesday because I noticed that that was the day that the facility had the most amount of material. So I wanted to see how that looked.
Okay. And back in 2019, when South Coast AQMD initially brought this petition, D&D had piles of uncovered, unprocessed materials, correct?
Correct.
And when you inspected the facility on December 2nd, 2020, did you take photographs?
I did.
Okay, so let's turn to one of the photographs. So Exhibit 9 was labeled photo of ground taken December 2nd, 2020.
Mhm.
Is this an accurate representation of what you saw that day?
Yes.
Can you describe what the photograph is showing?
So this is the grinder in the background. They also have the drop-off sign in the front, and then the
May I interrupt for a minute? Does anyone have on, Mr. Balagopalan, do you have these documents? I'm having trouble with my Adobe Acrobat. Could you share your screen with that? I just wanted to, or Ms. Sue, for the public's purposes.
Yeah, Chair, I do, Ms. Pruzak. If you want to make me the co-presenter, I can bring that up.
Can I do that, or does Paul have to do that? Let me see. No, I can't do that. Paul, are you present?
Right now,
Okay, thank you.
you got
Sorry
it.
to interrupt. I just think that might be
No
helpful.
worries. Yeah, definitely.
Mohan, you're all set. You can share your screen.
Okay.
Thank you, Paul.
Anybody else need that? Any other board members need that assistance? Doctor or Cynthia Verdugo or a senator?
No, I think it's just
Can you-
two
Can you see
photos.
it now?
I
No.
have mine, thank you.
Can you see my screen?
Not yet. Sometimes you need to hit that upside.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. I
Remember
forgot to do that.
Mohan in the boardroom, you had that upside down screen. You got to sometimes hit it twice
Right.
and
Hold
then
on.
hit the share at the bottom right.
Yeah, I didn't do that.
No worries.
You see it now?
No.
Oh, okay. Hold on. Sorry.
There we
How
go.
about now?
There we go. Yep. Wonderful.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Perfect.
Okay, I'm sorry to interrupt. You may proceed.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'll just start over. So as I was saying, the background of this picture, you can see the grinder. That's where the animal materials is fed into. The asphalt area is where the animals would be dropped off, right in front in that shady area, kind of on the right side. And then they still have the drop-off sign in the front of the picture.
Okay. So were there any raw materials left on the ground when you went and did your inspection?
No.
Okay. And could you please describe what you saw on December 2nd, 2020 contrasts with what you saw at the facility back in June 2019?
Yeah. Well, as you can see, it's very clean. The asphalt itself was much cleaner, less leftover material walking around. Viewing the wastewater area, that looks well maintained as well. And then the facility also had a large big rig truck that if they did need to store animal materials for longer than 4 hours or overnight, they would put the material in a tub and then forklift that into a big rig and seal that up so that it was nice and covered. And would you like me to get to the cooking area too, or did we want to get to the next photo?
Why don't we talk about the photo of the roof that
Yeah.
which is exhibit 10. Did you take this photograph on December 2nd, 2020?
Yes, I did.
And is this an accurate representation of what you saw that day?
Yes, it is.
And can you describe what it is that we're seeing?
Yes, so previously this roof was in shambles and had a lot of gaps, openings, animal material kind of hanging from it, looking very dirty and shabby. And as you can see, the facility has installed new crossbeam sections. That's all the nice shiny metal that's going across there. And they've also began installing the actual roof itself.
Okay.
And that's directly over the cookers.
Okay. And have you spoken to anyone at the facility regarding the plans for the roof?
Yes, I spoke with Ms. Martin
And what did Mr. Martin say about his plans for the roof?
to complete this install. And then when they get to the permanent total enclosure, include that in the structure.
Okay. And are you aware that the facility was issued its permits to construct the enclosure on November 6, 2020?
Yes.
Okay, so let's look at the stipulated proposed order. And I believe that was marked as Exhibit 8. And if you could look at attachment 3 to that exhibit, which is the proposed milestones.
Mhm.
So condition 6 of the attachment 3, according to the stipulated milestones, by September 30th, 2021, the facility shall have a fully operational enclosure for wastewater treatment facility and begin venting to the carbon absorption system, correct?
Correct.
And that September 30th, 2021 deadline, is that sooner than what is required by the rule?
Well, required by the rule.
Okay. And how long in general does the rule give facilities to complete such construction once a permit to construct is issued?
1 year.
Okay. So let's look at condition number 15. So according to condition 15, by September 30th, 2022, the facility shall have a fully operational enclosure for the rendering area and begin venting to the carbon absorption system, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and how long in general does the rule give facilities to complete such construction once a permit to construct is issued?
2 years.
So this condition, it requires completion sooner than what is required by the rule, correct?
Correct.
Thank you. I have no further questions at this time.
Okay, thank you.
I'll stop sharing then.
Yes, that would be great. Okay, wonderful. Mr. Stiles, do you have any
Yes.
questions for Mr. Harris?
Do I have any questions for Mr. Harris?
Mhm.
No, I do not.
Thank you. Board members, any questions for Mr. Harris?
I do.
Mr. Balakopalan?
Mr. Harris, I do want to clarify a statement that they are, about the requirement of the rule and when they're going to do it. This is a reset actually because they've been issued new permit to construct. The previous owner was supposed to have done some of this already, right?
Well, because the permit to construct for the permanent total enclosures was not issued for them, they were not on a timeline, no.
No, the permit to construct was issued to D&D, correct? In November, I think they were issued in sometime in November 2019. I'm sorry, December 8, 2019, they were issued permit to construct.
Okay. So they would still have two years
And,
for that. Yeah.
and okay, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, so the previous owner was issued permit to construct in December 8, 2019, and they had timelines from then, 1 year or 2 years to complete the construction. The wastewater was 1 year from that time period, and for the total enclosure and so forth was 2 years. So that was the initial timeline. There has been a reset now because of the new permit to construct that was reissued to the new owners. And so now it's a reset and it's extended further the deadline date. I just wanted to go on the record to make sure that's the case, not,
Yeah, so the previous ownership does not apply to this owner. They have a whole new permit to construct. They have a whole new process.
yes, but they were supposed to make, the previous owner was supposed to initiate within 6 months construction of the wastewater treatment and finish it within a year. So that didn't happen. Is that correct?
Correct.
The previous owner did not do any construction at all?
They brought a few items onto the site, such as an electrical housing box, but no, nothing was done by them.
Okay, so, and then because it was determined that the permit to construct was not transferable, they had the new owner had to reapply for the new permit to construct, which reset the 1 year and the 2 year
Correct.
compliance date.
Correct, and we're already seeing vast improvements.
No, I'm not. I just want to get that on the record that that there's been a reset of and it's pushback essentially of the compliance date because of the issue with the previous owner not doing the construction in a timely manner, because the permit to construct could have been transferred if they initiate construction, but I don't want to get into that. And but because this new owner was reissued, was issued new permit to construct, the timeline has moved forward further than what the rule actually required.
This is Daphne Sue. I think that that's more of an argument than something for Mr. Harris to respond to. He already testified to the facts as to when the permit to construct was issued to Legacy Byproducts and explained that the rule has certain time frame within which after a permit to construct is issued, the facility has to complete their construction.
Yeah, and I just wanted to point out that the previous owner also had certain time frame, but the new dates are actually as extended those compliance dates when they have to come into compliance.
And I want to just in the new proposed order, I want to direct our attention to paragraph 8, page number 3, which I think explains what you're saying, Mr. Balagopalan. It states what the Rule 415 requires. It requires that the owner or operator of an existing rendering facility submit permit application essentially by 2018. So that had not been done. And then generally it tells after that, the 24 months after they're issued to do that total enclosure, and just that date for the submission of the permit application and then the new permits, it just got reset even further. But the initial violation was by the previous owners, and it just everything got reset under the rules. Is that?
Yeah, yes, that's what I want to say. Everything got reset with the new permit application.
I think that's good to be clear on the record. Thank you for that. Did you have other questions, Mr. Balagopalan?
Yes, there's a requirement, I think, as a condition, and I'm looking at the old order, and then I'll go to the new one, that they have to provide you a weekly update once a permit to construct has been issued on what's going on with the construction. Has Legacy been providing that information to you?
From what I can recall, that was a monthly, not a weekly update. And as of now, no, I have not been getting construction updates, but that's partially because we're at the hearing board right now. So that's what we're getting into place.
I just, for the record, we have, until today, we have not been tasked with the motion or to determine whether or not to replace the respondent in this order. So.
Yeah, okay, and you're right, I'm sorry, it is monthly. Did the previous D&D supply anything on the construction as they were required by the previous order?
Yeah, they did. They told me that they brought in the electrical housing box 1 month, and another month they told me that they brought in maybe 1 or 2 other small things to do with construction.
But as far as you know, the wastewater treatment, they have not enclosed it or done anything to the wastewater treatment area?
The previous or current?
Yeah, the previous.
No.
No. Okay. All right, that's all I had. Thank you.
And also, just for the record, I'm looking at the old, the existing order, I should call it, not the old order, but the existing order for D&D. All of the wastewater treatment construction milestones should have been done by now. However, because the final was December 8th, 2020, but the very first milestone was August 1st, 2020, and that is after the sale of the facility. I just had a question. I did notice, and I am understanding that the rule allows 24 months and allows 12 months for the wastewater. But I did notice comparing the construction milestones and final construction dates that were existing to the ones that I now see in the current proposed order. And for example, condition 11 of the current proposed order, page 7, states that respondent shall complete construction of the permanent total enclosure by September 30th, 2022. Now that gives 22 months, and as Ms. Sue mentioned, that's quicker than the 24 months that would otherwise be allowed. But it's versus 16 months that in the original order that D&D had agreed to. Do you have any thoughts on that in terms of, was 16 months just not really doable? Or do you know why more time was given? Do you have any insight as to that?
I think with the current pandemic that's going on, it's a lot harder to get construction moving and going, getting the consulting in, getting people to come in and work. And sorry. Sorry. And yeah, speaking to Mr. Martin last week at the inspection, he also mentioned that because of the proximity of the wastewater and the material receiving area, that they're planning on kind of doing that all at the same time. So I'll let the facility speak to that themselves, but it seems that they're going to be getting it completed a lot faster. As you can see in the cooking area with the already, the roof that's already being installed.
No, those were great photos. Thank you for that. Those were my questions. Any other board members have any questions for Mr. Harris? Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Harris. Ms. Sue, do you have any other witnesses you wish to present?
I do not.
Okay, then I'm going to turn, I'll start, Mr. Stiles, with you.
Okay.
You presented an opening statement. You explained your purchase. Is there anything else that you wish to present? And in particular, I don't know if you would be speaking to the work that you've already done at the site, which we saw in the pictures, or your plans for the future construction and the timeline.
Yeah, yeah, I can step in and talk about some of that here. So immediately after we purchased D&D from the Gorman brothers, we went about cleaning up first employees, unnecessary employees, to try and save costs and money. And from there, we found out that it was fairly overstaffed. It wasn't necessary to have that many people. So in doing so, we had a bunch of employees with extra time, and we had them scraping off old animal material, old crusted on stuff that had probably been there for almost 20 plus years. That was one of our first orders to do, was just start to clean up physically everything as best as we possibly can. Next order was to try and make sense of all the paperwork that they left us. Nobody ever told us, you know, how to do anything with AQMD. It was all Vincent. He kind of said, hey, you know, read this, you'll figure it out. And then he left. And it was just like, oh, well, I hope we do this right. You know, we don't want to be in trouble with anybody for not knowing what we're supposed to be doing. So I believe I called AQMD countless times asking and saying, can anybody help me here? Can somebody just make sure I'm doing this right? So as far as I know, hopefully we've been doing everything as correct as possible. When we refiled for the permits to construct, you know, we were understood that we were given the 2 years, and we have no intention to take the 2 years, but we set up the milestones to give us time in case for some reason there's unforeseen, you know, consequences or something that we can't predict. That, and with the pandemic, like Mr. Harris has said, it's been fairly tough to try and get some people to come in and work with us. We've had a couple different contractors come in to help us with the buildings, and some of them have been less than ideal, but I think currently right now, Mr. Martin is working on acquiring some blueprints for the wastewater facility treatment and the raw material at the same time. And the idea is to, yes, if we have to acquire some more outside funding somewhere to get these both done at the same time and just kind of get this problem off of our back, the better. So currently our goal is to try and get in compliance with 415 as rapidly as we possibly can. So I don't know if I have any other statements on that. Would you, Armando?
And why don't we do that? Usually we would take one witness at a time, but I think in this case we can have Mr. Martin introduce himself. If you can state and spell your name for the record, and also tell us your title with Legacy, and then you can add anything you want, and we can ask questions.
Yes, my name is Armando Martin Jr., ARMANDO MARTIN Jr. I'm owner manager of Legacy Byproducts. My partner Steven Stiles, you talked to him already. Yeah, we're working right now with Empire Steel in San Diego to get some buildings here. I'm waiting on quotes from them and blueprints. At the moment, we already the roof that you saw. We had to do that. For one, it was falling apart. It was all rotted. Employees were working, and it was dangerous. So I had to get that done before the buildings. I know I could have waited maybe towards a year from now, because that's in the cooking area. I know we had to do the wastewater building before we even we have more time to do the cooking area, but it was a dangerous area, for the employees, so we decided to fix that roof. It should be done in probably a week or two. That roof will be finished. The building wise, I'm still waiting, like I said, on quotes for those two. I should have those probably in a week.
I'm sorry, you said what, a week?
Yes, I should have quotes for those two buildings in a week.
Thank you for your testimony. Well, we can answer that with questions. So I'll turn to Ms. Sue to see if you have any questions for either Mr. Stiles or Mr. Martin.
Well, Mr. Martin, is it correct that the facility has declined or sent certain materials to other facilities to process?
Yes. So if we receive anything like good material, meaning beef wise or chicken, poultry, anything like that, all of that goes to Darling. Anything that is going through here is pretty much what other rendering plants won't take, because we are the only rendering plant that takes cats, dogs. So that's pretty much what's going through here: cats, dogs, animals like that, horses. But any good material, meaning beef, chicken, fish, would go to Darling. Is going to Darling.
And why did you or Mr. Stiles make that decision?
For one, we don't want the raw material sitting here. Second of all, it costs us more to be rendering this material that we're actually getting for the final product. So we might as well have, instead of doing it here, we might as well take it where they could get more for that material. Because if we mix it in with our cats and dogs, and that beef and that poultry, that end product, it's going to be worth a lot less than what Darling could get for it.
Okay. And so if there was an optimistic timeline for completing the permanent total enclosure, if everything went smoothly, what would be the fastest that it could be completed?
We're trying our best, we're trying our best. We have these milestones, and we're going to try to complete it within these 2 years. If we could do it faster financially, like Steven said, if we could get help, a loan or something, we're going to try to push it. And if we could do it faster, we will.
And if you would be able to do it faster, what would that timeline be?
I'm not sure, to tell the truth. There's no way to say that.
Okay, thank you. I have no further questions at this time.
Thank you.
But just along those lines, I just want to follow up quickly, but you're not sure, which is understandable, how much faster you might be able to get it done, but you feel confident that you can get it done within the milestones within the order?
Yes.
Okay. And you understand that once those milestones are in the order, they are enforceable. So you want to make sure that you're comfortable with those milestones.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions, board members? Ms. Verdugo-Peralta.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Martin and Mr. Stiles, I commend you for taking this on because this is quite an effort. My question to you is, when you purchased the business, were you told, notified, or was it disclosed in any way, shape, or form that you were going to have all of these regulations that you had to meet and the dates that you had to meet, what the business was under as far as possible penalty from the AQMD?
I can speak on that one. Yes, when we purchased, we were told that, you know, they were under heavy scrutiny from the AQMD and that we would probably and most likely be subject to the same rules, regulations. We looked into everything. Through the help of Atul Kandari, we looked through and verified that yes, we enforcing and are taking over and running this facility, we would be subject to these same rules and regulations. It wasn't ever spoken that we'd be under their deadlines or their timelines or anything like that, but they didn't tell us that, you know, you will have to do this, you're going to have to enclose these places, and it's going to be not worth your money, it's going to be not worth your time. And Armando and I both agreed that that can't be the case. This is kind of a vital part of society, especially because out of all the rendering plants in California, none of them really do cats and dogs or horses. We're as far as CDFA knows, the one and only rendering facility that will take animals that have been euthanized with sodium pentobarbital, a barbiturate that's often used to kill horses. So we're the only facility that will take that. And because of that, as Armando was saying, our final rendered product is practically worthless in the market. We're receiving less than, I think, we're almost taking in less than a third of what other rendering plants will get for their finished final product. But they won't touch what they call companion animals, cats, dogs, pets, and they won't touch horses because of this. Whereas we will take that in because we have the ability to sell that product.
Okay, thank you.
Correct.
Board members, any other questions for either Mr. Stiles or Mr. Martin?
I do, Madam Chair.
Michael Pollan.
Mr. Stiles, I think you mentioned can you briefly talk about your experience in rendering? Did you mention earlier, I think I didn't quite get it, how many years you have been in the field? So
I have been in rendering myself since June of 2020. Yeah, since we took over. That's my experience in rendering. However, my family has owned a animal collection site and facility for the last 50 or so years in the Inland Empire. So we pick up lots of dead animals. We pick up cats, horses, dogs, cows, and we bring a majority of our material to Darling. But in the past, we used to bring material to West Coast D&D. And my father is actually, he didn't start D&D, but he helped basically build it from the ground up. It was started by a couple families before my father got involved, but before the Gormans had it, the Brownsteins had it, and my father worked very close hand in hand from a very young age, and eventually it passed over to the Gormans. So my family history is in rendering, but I personally do not have any history in rendering myself.
Okay. What about when did you start negotiating with the Gormans to looking at purchasing this facility?
We probably started negotiating 1.5 months before the actual sale. It was kind of a very quick thing. The Gormans knew that they needed to get out quick, and I knew that I was going to be moving out of state fairly soon, so we kind of needed to get things done fairly quick.
Okay. I thought I heard you mention that you have not secured funding yet for the construction that needs to be done for enclosing and to do all the necessary construction to meet the rules requirement. Is that correct?
Not particularly correct. Right now, everything has been being bankrolled. It's all coming out of our own pockets and stuff. But to make these buildings and to bring them into compliance and to get everything done, we might have to, search for additional funding versus having the money come in from just our pure revenue from the industry.
Have you got estimates on cost for both the wastewater and for enclosing making it a permanent total enclosure for the receiving and all the other areas?
I have not seen a cost or a quote or anything for the carbon absorption, but one of the buildings while I was still in California, I had gotten a quote for was the wastewater, and that was a $26,000 building.
Okay. And the reason I'm asking is I just wanted to get some confidence level that 6 months down the road that, this becomes a financial burden. You're not going to walk away or sell it to another company, and then we reset the whole process again. Some, assurance.
No, we're heavily invested in this. Both Armando and I have personally signed on the loan for the land. We do not own the land, we are renting it, and we are both on record for the loan, whether the business succeeds or fails for the next 10 years. So we are very much interested in seeing this through for the next 10 years.
Okay. And if I can go to Mr. Armando,
Yes.
Did you work at D&D before, or where have I think you have more experience, if I recall.
No, so I own a company before this. I own a company called TLC Animal Removal Services. So I picked up dead animals. I transport them to Stevens, out in Ontario. My father actually worked here. He worked for the Gormans and he worked for the Brownsteins. He was here about over 30 years. So he was supervisor here for D&D. So that's how, I know, that's how I got in contact with Steven, and that's how I'm here now.
Okay. And I think Steven mentioned you're working with the construction company to get quotes and get the drawings finalized. Is that?
Yes, we're trying to get quotes for the 2 buildings, and then once I put a deposit down, they'll send me blueprints that I could take to the city.
Okay, so and the timelines especially for the wastewater is only a year once you have the permit to construct.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you got 2 more years for the other areas.
Yes.
And you're going to move it along with this. As far as the previous owners did not do anything.
They did not do anything. They didn't do anything.
All right. Thank you. That's all I had. Yeah.
Any other questions? Senator, you have questions? You are muted.
Question either one can answer. Do the Gorman have any interest in this project at this time? Or you have it free and clear?
No, we have 100% ownership of the business. The Gormans no longer have any interest in this that we're fully aware of. What Armando and I found out maybe within the last month that our reclaim title wasn't fully, filed right, and we had to get those reclaim permits or those tax credits from Vincent. And as far as I'm aware, that is the final and last interest that they hold in this business here.
Thank you.
Any other questions from board members? Thank you very much for your testimony, both of you. I think we can, well, let's see if there's any member of the public who is in attendance who wishes to be heard today on this matter. And if you are a member of the public who wishes to be heard, please virtually raise your hand with the raise hand function, or turn on your camera, or turn on your microphone. Okay. And I don't see anyone who wishes to be heard. Okay, so with that, Ms. Sue, if you would like to give your closing.
We ask that the hearing board enter the stipulated proposed order. As you saw from the pictures, Legacy Byproducts is operating cleanly and also has already made significant building improvements. Rule 415D1F allows facilities to request a 1-year extension to complete construction. The proposed order provides deadlines within the stated 1 and 2 year requirements in the rule and does not provide additional time as allowed by a request. The order ensures that the facility stays on track with the construction of its permanent total enclosures and its attendant control equipment. We request that the hearing board substitute the respondent and enter the proposed order. Thank you.
Thank you. Board members, anyone wish to begin discussion in this matter?
Did you have one closing comments from the respondent?
Oh, gosh, I'm so sorry. Mr. Stiles or Mr. Martin, do you wish to give any closing statement, any statement that you haven't made, or summing up your closing?
I guess I would just like to say thank you for having us here and hearing us out on regards to the situation at hand. I know it's been difficult with D&D in the past, and we hope that we're not difficult to work with in the future.
Thank you for that. If anyone would like to begin, otherwise I can. Would you please, Senator, are you with us?
Oh,
Of course I am.
Oh, okay, because you're not on camera. That's why
Oh. Sorry about that.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Dr. Bernardino.
I'm gonna go off camera for 5 minutes, but I'm not leaving the hearing, okay?
All right, so since we're in deliberation, would you like a 5-minute break before we deliberate?
5 minutes would be great and everything would be perfect if that's okay, but whatever you feel comfortable with, I just need 5 minutes.
Okay, then since we need all our board members to deliberate, let's go off the record for 5 minutes. Don't leave the hearing, but you can mute your microphone. Okay, Dr. Bernstein, are you able to be back? Okay, so we'll wait for the rest of the board and the parties to reassemble. Okay. And Ms. Sue, you are back?
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so we are back on the record, and when we left to go off the record, we had heard closing statements and we were ready for deliberation. And I'm just gonna check in again to see if anyone wishes to begin. Otherwise, since this was a matter, if you would like to begin, Mr. Balaguer,
Sure.
Otherwise.
Yeah, I think, we had, and I won't go with legacy, we had D&D quite many times here before the board. And we have provided extension and for them to comply with the rule 415. The rule, and I'll just go a little bit on the rule, and then the rule says that in November 3rd, 2017, they had a year to submit a permit to construct, and then for the PTE, they had 2 years to complete the construction. So by 2020, if the facility had followed the timelines, that should have happened. And for the wastewater, it was also 1 year to submit the application, and by 2019, they should have been in compliance. Unfortunately, D&D did not comply, and there was an order abatement, and there was extension, and so forth. And then when Legacy took over the business, it's unfortunate. I think my mind, I think when they bought the business, they should have known. As just saying that because the governments didn't inform them, the previous order should have carried over to and the timelines. But nevertheless, I think the district reissued the PC and now has reset the deadline even further down, and are following the rule timelines basically for permit to construct. And now, and that's why I meant by they've essentially reset the following the rule that you got 2 years from the issuance of the PC to comply with the PTE and 1 year for the wastewater treatment. In reality, and unfortunately, it didn't happen. That's the concern, and is that this reset that has occurred, and that's why I was asking the question. I don't doubt that Mr. Stiles and Mr. Martin have are going to take the bull by the horn and come and do all they can to come into compliance as soon as they can. But if whatever reason financially, if they fail and they walk or they sell the business, I hate to see another reset and another extension further down the road. I would have preferred to see that the old order stood, and then they had asked for extension of time because they took over and they didn't realize that instead of a complete reset based on the permit to construct date. But since it's a stipulated order, that's I understand that these are the dates that have been provided. So that's the only concern I have, because the wastewater treatment should have been totally enclosed and been vented to a carbon absorber already by now, actually, because a year from December 8, 2019, they should have been in compliance with that portion of the rule. It appears the previous owner, the governments, had probably had no intention of complying and did not do anything. So I just want to impress on the new owners that that this has been going on for a very long time, and the community, and I know we didn't ask Mr. Harris about the ongoing complaints. The communities are the ones who are suffering with the delay in the construction of the control systems, and I think at the last time when we gave the government the extension, we made that, I remember making the comment, I hope there's no more extension, this is the last time. But again, we are here now, and again, we are looking at 2 more years or more, 2 years essentially, because the final compliance date for the PTE is September 30th, 2022, when it should have been done by, well, it still was 2022 for the PTE. So that one is okay. It's just the wastewater has been moved out.
Actually, they both have been moved out by a year.
Yeah, they both moved out, but the PT not substantially longer, but yeah, they moved out, So
about a year.
Yeah, they all have been shifted by a year, so that's really unfortunate, and I just wanted to, and my remembrance is permit to construct. If they've started construction, there's a Peter Greenwald memo that says that you can actually do transfer. System is not very, I don't know if they can change, but to transfer permit to construct from one company to the other. But there's a long-standing memo that would have allowed, under certain conditions, to transfer the permit to construct to the new owner. So what I would have preferred to see that while we changed the order to legacy, and an extension, but not a complete reset. That's the only portion that I'm uncomfortable with, because now we have extended the timeline even further.
Thank you, Mr. Balagopalan. I was going to say something, but Ms. Verdugo-Peralta, you have your hand up. Why don't you go ahead?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I hear what my fellow board member, Mr. Balagopalan, is saying, and I don't disagree with it. It's an unfortunate circumstance that we couldn't hold the other owners' feet to the fire on this, because we could see that they were dragging this on. And frankly, I wasn't surprised when I said that there was a sale of the property. However, based on what the rule is saying, and that we are giving them this new reset, I am hoping, and I have I have compassion for what they're going through. I also want to impress upon them how important it is. They are new. It sounds like, as far as experience is concerned, regarding this particular type of business, while they're familiar with it. But what is most important here is the fact that you have a regulatory agency that has oversight on your business, and it's unlike a normal business that doesn't have this oversight of a regulatory agency, and it's going to be difficult. And I hope that you do find the funding, whether it's through Small Business Administration or wherever. But the fact that now you too are responsible for this, I hear that you're taking it seriously, and hope that you do meet these deadlines, because it's not just a matter of the surrounding area, your neighbors, and I know that there are not that many residents within your city, but it does permeate beyond city limits. It's also you and your employees who are being exposed to all of that toxic air. So with that, I have good wishes for you, and hopefully you can do this, because we do have to hold on to those deadlines and can't go on any further. And I'm hoping that there won't be another sale, as Mr. Balagopalan mentioned. So with that, I can be positive about what you're going to do with this business, and hopefully come into compliance. Thank you.
Thank you. First, I wanted to start with the first request, which is to substitute these gentlemen in Legacy as the respondent. And clearly we have sufficient grounds to do that. They've been served, they appeared, they applied for the permits. And so I think that is a clear yes. I don't know if we all remember what we were seeing previously on photographs and how far this facility has come. But the photographs we saw today were just night and day. And I think that really speaks loudly to the intentions of these gentlemen and Legacy to come in here and be in compliance. It couldn't be clearer that the previous owners, they were in here May 6th, 2020. They agreed to those deadlines. And then, as I think was explained well by Mr. Stiles, I think they quickly tried to sell and leave town. They had no intention of complying with those original dates. They did nothing to move it forward. And whether those permits to construct could have been transferred to Legacy, they weren't. And so that was the decision of the district. And so Legacy is forced to abide by that. And so they didn't receive those permits until last month. That sets the clock. And given how strapped we heard this industry is, we understand it because the previous owners couldn't make it lucrative enough to do what they needed to do to comply. I think these gentlemen were very sincere in their efforts to in fact comply, and I think that's an effort that should be applauded. I think my fellow board members are applauding that. They also testified, I think it was Mr. Stiles, that they're in this for 10 years, and they're on the hook, and so they have no intention, as the previous owners did, of leaving this hearing and selling. I think they did their due diligence. They didn't maybe know they were going to be held to what were the dates or what they were really in for, but they knew they had to comply with 415. We heard them testify that they looked into that. They called the district several times. They had conversations. They made sure they were very clear on what needed to be done. And so they went into this with eyes open. And so for all those reasons, I think I can certainly find good cause for these modifications. Again, I echo what Mr. Balagopalan and what Ms. Verdugo Peralta were saying, that it is very unfortunate for the people who live around the facility, but it's certainly not Legacy's doing. And they're doing what they can as quickly as possible. I'm convinced of that. But and they've already done a lot. They cared enough to know that longstanding roof was going to cave in on their employees. They made sure to make that first priority, and they cleaned up what sounded horrendous. I don't even want to know. Glad we never saw pictures of that. We saw some pretty horrific pictures before. So those are my thoughts, and I clearly can find good cause. Senator, Dr. Bernstein, Senator, you have additional thoughts?
Very, very interesting case. June 2020, Legacy, let's start with December 2019, AQMD issued 2 permits to D&D to construct the enclosure, according to the rule 415. On June 2020, Legacy product purchased D&D and applied for the existing permit at that time, which would have been applicable to these 2 gentlemen. The district said, no, you cannot be transferred. They were not trying to get out of those deadlines. It's clear, or they would not have asked to do so. They were told they have to apply for a permit separately or independently to the district. On November 6, 2020, AQMD issued a permit to construct as part of the facility reclaim. So those dates are significant. Number 1, the permit was originally given to D&D. And number 2, byproducts purchased D&D and applied for, and they requested the permit be transferred to them, not with the intention of trying to circumvent the time that has been established. Just to say no. And so they made the application for it, a permit. So November 6, 2020, it was granted by the district. These gentlemen do have experience in this industry. Mr. Stiles' father worked for some time, and I guess he understudied his father. And then Mr. Martin Jr., father worked at this facility. So it's not foreign to them. I get the impression that they understand the business. They're well aware of the commitment they made to clean the system up and go forward. I'm with you.
It's good to see during a time of COVID, an entrepreneurial spirit still surviving and flourishing. Dr. Bernstein, did you raise your hand or were you just agreeing with it?
Yes, ma'am. Can you hear me okay? As is typical, the chair sums it up succinctly and poignantly. As far as I'm concerned, we have two responsible entrepreneurs who are undertaking a business that at the very least is in disrepair and of course in violation of district rules. And they have exemplified, in my opinion, every aspect of being interested in complying with exactly those rules and making that business much more environmentally sound and taking into consideration not only themselves, but their employees and the surrounding neighborhood. And so I also find that we can find good cause as well. And I wish them both good luck. It's as tough as it possibly can be right now for entrepreneurs. And thank God you have the energy and are making the efforts to have a successful business. And I personally wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
Thank you all for your excellent comments and discussion. With that, I'm going to make a motion. It's a two-part motion as was requested and as is presented to us in the papers. Part one of the motion is I move that we, in the matter of South Coast Air Quality Management District versus D&D Disposal, Inc., doing business as West Coast Rendering Company, case number 3462-4. First, I move that we substitute as respondent in this matter legacy byproducts for all the reasons that we discuss, and that will also change the name of the matter moving forward. In addition, I further move that we grant the requested modifications and in particular that we adopt Exhibit 8, which is the proposed order. I have only one change, and that is the wrong date is on the first page, line 20. That's the date they received their permits, but the date this was heard will substitute today's date of December 10th. I don't believe there are any other changes, and that's based on good cause for that modification as discussed during deliberations by the board members, and that completes my motion. Is there a second to that motion? Dr. Bernstein waves his hand and he seconded the motion. Any discussion on that two-part motion? Okay. Ms. Verdugo-Peralta, how do you vote?
Aye.
Senator Holden, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Balagopalan, how do you vote?
Yes.
Dr. Bernstein, how do you vote?
Aye.
I vote yes. Motion passes 5-0. Just good luck to you gentlemen. We know what you're taking on. We've seen it. Also, thank you very much for your very credible and honest testimony today. We appreciate that. Thank you also to Mr. Harris. Thank you, Ms. Sue. And thank you, board. Board members, we have one more matter, and I would like to take a 15-minute break before we come back on the record with our matter for consent. City of San Bernardino. I look down at my papers. We have so many matters, I can't keep them straight. So we'll go off the record. Let's come back. I want to get my papers together at 10:40. 10:40. Again, of course, we know not to leave the meeting, but everyone else may leave the meeting unless you're here for that other matter. Thank you. We're off the record.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And good luck to you.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Okay, it looks like everyone is back. And so we can go back on the record as long as, Madam Clerk, I don't want to. Ready? Okay, we are back on the record, and we have one more matter for today, and it is on consent calendar. And that matter is City of San Bernardino Municipal Water Department. Case number 6124-1. And the request is for a modification of the final compliance dates, variance condition, and increments of progress. We have several documents that have been submitted to us. First of all, I do want to note for the record that, well, let me just start by marking the joint stipulation to place the matter on consent calendar. And I do believe we're up to number 15 for petitioner. You don't have it in front of you?
I do. We're at number 17 for the petition.
Oh, okay. That's going to change everything. Give me 1 second. Okay. So let's mark the joint stipulation as number 17. Okay. And in the joint stipulation, the parties agree that the matter may be placed on today's consent calendar. Petitioner seeks a modification. The declaration of Kevin Stewart, I'm going to mark that, which we received with the original papers, is going to be marked as exhibit number 18. Sorry. The parties agree that can be submitted into evidence. So exhibit 18, the declaration of Kevin T. Stewart, is in evidence. In addition, it's not part of the stipulation, but the chair asked for an additional supplemental declaration answering 2 questions. And that declaration, the supplemental declaration of Kevin T. Stewart, was agreed upon by the parties. And so we're going to mark that as exhibit number 19. And that will also be in evidence. Further, there were questions by Vice Chair Balagopalan, and those questions were answered in a December 4th letter on Summick, Simmons, and Dunn letterhead, answering, I think it's 3 questions, but a number of questions. And that will mark as exhibit number 20. And since both parties saw that response, we'll also put that in evidence. Further, in the stipulation, going back to the stipulation, the parties do request the hearing board to decide the matter based upon the documents submitted by the parties to the hearing board, including those declarations now added to that. Parties agree to incorporate all prior evidence received at those various hearings. And in addition, this is what I wanted to make note of. We have all been receiving, and the petitioner has been filing regularly monthly reports, and those also are part of the record, even though I'm not going to mark them because they are all individually filed with the clerk's office and sent to board members. And finally, the parties have agreed to a proposed modification to a new findings and decision of the hearing board. We've received red line version of that. We'll mark it as exhibit 21. And the final clean version, which we will mark as Exhibit 22. Neither party expects that the operation under the proposed modified variance will result in a violation of nuisance. And there's no opposition to the modification by the district. Okay, with that, I'm going to see if there's any member of the public who is present on this matter who wishes to be heard before the hearing board deliberates. And if you are a member of the public and you wish to be heard, you can simply press either on your phone or your PC the raise hand button, or you can indicate by turning on your microphone or otherwise turning on your camera and indicating to the board that you wish to be heard. So again, if you wish to be heard on this matter, virtually or really raise your hand. Okay, and I see no member of the public who wishes to be heard. Okay, board members, anyone wish to begin discussion on this matter?
I can, Madam Chair, if you like.
Sure, Mr. Balago.
Yes, first of all, I'd like to compliment the petitioner in giving a very detailed declaration, and actually also appreciate the very detailed monthly report that they provided with updates with pictures and keeping the board updated on the progress of the project. And so that's and also the response to the comments I had, they also provided a very good summary of the two different methods of calculating and explained what, why there's their proposed condition is for the calculating the excess emission it's as provided in the findings is appropriate. So I appreciate that. So I think as provided in the declaration by Mr. Stewart, he explained the reasons for the delay in the project. Part of it had to do with the, without going into all the nitty gritty of it, the Edison delay in getting all the power hookup and with Edison. And then they had some issues with because of COVID getting cement and laying the foundation with the concrete. And they also had some other issues with the one of the blower, not the variable frequency drive, and falling into a confined space, and they had to get special permits and so forth. And a special order, the particular motor, also it's causing delay. They were on target, but I think when COVID hit, they had delays due to that, and then they had also had with Edison delays in getting the infrastructure in place to hook up all the electrical and so forth, which I think Ms. Verdugo had pointed out the last time too. That might be the case because of the fire and everything that's going on. That there might be some delay in getting the permits and getting the approval and getting a priority in getting the hookup, and it appears that might happen. So I think the petitioner is requesting to continue to use the digester gas in the engines, and they need to, because that's an essential operation for the continuation and operating the plant. So they without that they cannot operate the plant, and of course then the whole facility treatment plant to be shut down, and which and this is an essential public service, so we cannot see that happen. So I think they made a very good argument for extending and modifying the order. So I think that I don't find any reason not to grant it. Let me put it that way.
Thank you. Any other thoughts? I wanted to add that just remind us and bring us back that yes, we've been hearing this variance since 2018, and it's a long variance, but it is a digester gas beneficial use program, something that we definitely want to see be implemented using fuel cell technology, etc. and just to remember why they were in this position in the first place was because they were demonstrating new technology. It did not work. So this new technology is going to take its place. And the only issue that I had seen was this is such a complicated project, and there are so many different parts to the project. And as Mr. Balagopalan pointed out, such comprehensive papers that we received, and also those detailed monthly reports, that it was very hard for me to see what was the driving factor for the request for 9 months of extension, and whether that 9 months was realistic. So with the supplemental declaration, I think it's been very well explained. So there were the 3 driving factors, COVID, as Mr. Balagopalan pointed out, with regard to receiving certain components, and that being delayed. Also, the wildfires, and shifting the focus of SCE, so that, as was explained, which I thought, but I couldn't tell for 100% because there were so many things going on in the papers, that is actually the driving factor, is the SCE delay. And that's the reason why that's the critical path to the fuel cell. And also, did we say also, I know Mr. Balagopalan, you said all of that contributed to this shortage of cement for 2020. But now understanding what is that driving factor, why they realistically now think 9 months is the best estimate they have at this point, and shifting those dates back by that amount of time, I think we have good cause to do. And also the other thing I wanted to say that they added, I don't think this was in the original declaration, but really putting into perspective that they have every incentive, not only that they are a responsible government agency with every incentive to move this forward quickly, but having paid over $126,000 thus far in excess emission fees, and having this be so far over a $3 million project in infrastructure, of course, they have every incentive to move quickly. Other thoughts, Ms. Verdugo Peralta?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I also concur with my fellow board members who have spoken so far. This is a really important project for the demonstration of the new technology utilizing the digester gas, and especially utilizing fuel cells, which I am a huge proponent of. And I was hoping I wouldn't be right regarding the delay, regarding the utility, but that really is par for the course. So I see all of the good efforts that have been put into this project, not just dollars, but actual efforts by the stakeholders, the interested parties. So with that, I also concur, and I can find good cause. Thank you.
I should also mention, sorry, we should be clear that there is one additional request, and that is for a modification to condition 7, or is it increment of progress? Sorry, I just want to make sure I have it right. Yes, it is increment of progress 7 with regard to simply one component for which they need additional time, and that is the variable frequency drive for ALS pump number 2. And as they explain in all the papers, they thought it was an off-the-shelf type of deal, and it's not. So they need additional time just for that particular component. So I find that there's good cause for that, given the papers as well. And with that, I think that's everything, but additional thoughts, board members, any other thoughts? Senator.
The question that you raised on December 7th was explained to sufficiently as to whether this matter should remain on December 7, 2020, should remain on consent. The response was sufficient, adequate to respond to your question. And what I'm looking at on page 4 of the petition, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 paragraphs down, it's clearly explained why they needed 10 months. The primary metering, SCE primary metering project will consolidate the facility electrical load from 2 separate meters system to 1 to enhance the operation of the fuel cells. They explain also in the response that SC&E took their own time and they may slip their schedule. They could not give us a schedule based on the fact that Southern California Edison, its time limits are uncertain. So they're asking for 9 months. Hopefully it can be done sooner. But if it's not, then they already told you in advance that it's due to Southern California Edison. They're not held to the standard of what the company is.
Thank you. Any other thoughts? And then I can make a motion. Okay. Then I'm going to make a motion since I already have signed the previous order, that in the matter of City of San Bernardino Municipal Water Department, case number 6024-1, I move that we grant the requested modification and extension of the final compliance date. And I further move that we adopt the final modified findings and decision and order that are found in Exhibit 22. And I just want to highlight, I have no changes to make to it. And it's based on the good cause discussion that we just said, but I just want to point out where all the changes are, and that is in conditions 3 and 4, the final compliance date has been changed and moved 9 months, as we have discussed. And also in 8, and in increments of progress, 7, we're just changing it to allow for additional time for that one variable frequency drive with regard to a particular pump, ALS pump number 2. And finally, condition number, increment of progress number 8. This is not finally. The final commissioning of the final operational process arrangement, that date also was moved 9 months, and additional increments of progress 11 through 16 were added because of the movement of the timeline by 9 months. And the excess emissions still remain at, they are. Mr. Balagopalan, can you tell us the excess emissions? Are they different?
Yes, it's 17.45 pounds per year, per day of NOx, 702.3 pounds per day of CO, and 47.9 pounds per day of VOC for the duration of the variance.
Can you repeat CO?
702.3 pounds per day.
Okay, so that's 17.45 pounds per day NOx, 702.3 pounds per day CO, 47.9 pounds per day VOC.
That's correct.
And that completes my motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Mr. Balagopalan has seconded the motion. Is there a discussion on that motion? Okay, Senator Holden, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Verdugo-Peralta, how do you vote?
Aye.
Dr. Bernstein, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Balagopalan, you vote.
Yes.
I vote yes. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you for an excellent discussion. I also wanted to thank the parties, and in particular the petitioner, for getting all the information together that the board requested, additional so quickly and so comprehensively. We are so busy at the board that my request went out a whole day, maybe and a half later than I requested it. And by no one's fault, or as we said before, our clerk's office is slammed. I just want to thank the parties and the petitioner for having so little notice and getting that together. So thank you very much. Board members, do we have any other business to discuss before we happily adjourn early today?
Yes, I do. In the case we had regarding I think it's a refinery, and we amended the motion because the petitioner contingent of the district agreeing to it. I think the district said they didn't agree with it. So where do we fall back? Fall back to the original motion then?
Yes, that motion was made contingent upon a stipulation. If there's no stipulation, then the motion, that part of the motion is no longer part of that motion.
Okay.
Well, it won't be it's part of the motion, but it won't be part of the order.
Right. And that's Ultramar, sorry, doing businesses.
Thank you. And again, we're not hearing the case, but
No, I just want a clarification. Yeah.
Right. I'm just letting any member of the public who might be watching, we're not hearing the case. We're just clarifying what that motion meant and where we stand now, given the response of the district. Thank you for that. Any other business that we should discuss? Dr. Bernstein.
I don't know if it's exactly business, but I wanted to extend a happy Hanukkah to all those of the public that are listening, and of course to our chair.
Thank you, and happy Hanukkah also.
Yes.
Happy Hanukkah also to you. And to everyone out there that's listening.
To my 2%, happy Hanukkah too.
You have 2%, huh?
Yeah. Eastern European Jew, yes.
Did you do that genetics testing?
Yeah, I did.
That sounded very genetics testing. Okay, thank you. And thanks again to our clerk's staff for your tireless efforts and work given everything that we were dealing with, and your short-staffedness. And to Paul, oh my gosh, we heard Paul was up till 10, well, I'm sure he was up past 10, working till 10 last night, and then just juggling like crazy. And we
putting out the fires.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We're on next week, aren't we?
Oh yeah.
We are.
We sure are.
Wishing them happy holidays like we're saying goodbye.
Hanukkah starts tonight.
Tonight is the first night of Hanukkah.
Both of you have a good one. Happy Hanukkah to both of you.
And 2% of Cynthia.
2% to you.
Betty said earlier today, there's no filibustering.
All right. Doctor, I never told you, your two friends wanted me to give you their best greetings. I never finished the statement. From Orange County, from the Orange County Public Works.
Oh, awesome.
Jim Wyrick and Scott Dorsett.
Oh, perfect.
Excuse me. When I mentioned you were on our board, in fact, they went into the hearing board there and they saw where you sat, and they said they went way back with you.
Yeah, they're some of the first people that I met when I got involved in the water world.
Okay.
It's awesome. Well, thank you for telling me that. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Water. Yeah.
Money, I got to get a hold of them.
So they're doing a whole brand new, civic center for the county.
Right.
And
I got to catch up with those guys because, like I said, they owe me money. So
okay.
You guys keep talking, but I just want to be clear. We are adjourned. So
for the day.
Good.
For the day, Madam Chair.
Yes, we're adjourned for the day.
Okay. No more after lunch.
No.
Okay.
That's why we're all giddy. We're all
see everybody tomorrow then, right?
Newfound time.
We all discuss next week.
Not till next. Our heroes next.
Oh, it's Thursday. Okay, great.
Right? Who knows what day?
Everybody have a great weekend. Okay, it's good to see everybody and stay well. Be careful out there. And Senator, keep it down, will you?
Same to you, Dr. Bernstein,
Safe, you
Thank you
guys.
all.
Take care.
See you all later.
and everybody.
I stopped the recording, Paul. Paul, you're on mute.
Yes, I'll get YouTube.
Yeah. We got that MSRC.
Yeah, and I got Noe and Carlos in here working on the air conditioning right now.
Okay, that's
The
good.
roof is kind of apart. Hang on, let me just stop the webcast. Just give me 1 sec.
Yeah, go ahead and stop it.
Done.